Hello everyone, this is Obro and welcome to Xavier University Bhubaneswar Presents Legend powered by Xavier School of Communications. Today we have with us Ms. Sohini Das, the Associate Vice President of an advertising firm that has been always awarded and known for its successful and creative ad campaigns, Leo Burnett. She has been a part of the advertising and marketing industry for the last 9 years. In 2014, she was involved with the campaign 50 for 50 by Schneider Electric, which received the Effective Use of Marketing Communications Award at the Global Brand Excellence Awards organized by the World Brand Congress. Currently, the lead strategist for Procter & Gamble and General Mills at Leo Burnett, she is a seasoned media professional willing to give us insights and the inside stories about everything that goes around the world of advertising. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
So, I may begin the interview by asking you, what's the need of strategy in marketing?
I think strategy is literally the most important part of marketing. Your strategy will, and across product, people, and profit and promotion, right? All 4 P's of marketing. So your strategy will define who's the consumer you're going to go after. Your strategy will define what is going to be your competitive frame of reference, right? You might be Coca-Cola and you might be an aerated beverage. But is your competitive frame of reference as a strategic decision only aerated beverages, or is it any drink that a consumer would have at any point in time, including water, right? So that's strategy. Strategy will define what price point you want to keep your product at. At every point in marketing, strategy is literally step 1 to identify a successful marketing initiative that you are going to do. So yes, that is the role in marketing, and of course, as far as communication is concerned, strategy is pretty much the starting building block. So strategy is the brains of marketing and communication for sure.
So taking cue from that, so you have worked with various sales and marketing teams with multiple brands.
Yeah.
And in an advertising agency, there's always a creative team as well.
Yeah.
So if you could tell us how creativity is an important part of strategy and branding.
Super important. I think creativity does a couple of things, right? If you are creative, by definition, you will think out of the box, right? Be it as a marketer, be it as a PR professional, be it as a creative professional, strategist, whatever. It will automatically mean that you are going to be thinking of 50 solutions to one problem, right? It will mean that you are going to say that I want to look at newer options. I'm not going to be comfortable, right? A lot of times what happens with marketers, with a lot of seasoned marketers also, that in the course of, running after the numbers in their company, they sort of lose a sense of creativity. But creativity is not just about communication. Creativity is about how you are approaching every aspect of your business in a creative, out-of-the-box way. And sometimes how do you tackle a problem that you have very creatively and also find an opportunity out of a problem. So it is most important. It keeps everybody, up on their toes. It makes sure that everybody's thinking on their feet. It makes sure everybody is innovating mentally at every point in time. So it keeps a business moving. A business that doesn't get creative with its solution does stagnate and does end up losing market share beyond a point.
So you are from the industry, so I'd like to ask you, what do you think about the current market in India? Like a major segment of our audience are moving from the traditional medium to the digital media.
Yeah.
And how has it changed the marketing and advertising industry?
Oh, it's I think for traditional advertisers, right? Typically, most advertising agencies have started off being very traditional, TV, print, outdoor. Clients in India also largely still want that as like the first thing that they want. That no matter what you do, I want a piece of TV communication and I want a piece of outdoor or a print. That landscape is changing, right? So today brands, clients have realized that they are getting a lot. Their communication is getting a lot more effective if they're using newer mediums of communication, if they're using influencers, if they're using technology and so on and so forth. And more traditional advertising agencies need to reinvent themselves, because if they don't do that, the clients are today, for example, going to a content maker versus a traditional advertising company when they want to create content. So today, for an advertising agency, not just for a traditional advertising agency, not just digital agency, not just digital agency's competition, but also a content agency, also a celebrity management agency, because anybody and everybody today that is giving the client newer avenues to market themselves is in big demand. So the whole approach to the changing aspect of marketing that agencies need to take today, and they are taking, a lot of big agencies are reinventing themselves. They are investing in technology. To give you an example, Ogilvy and Mather, which is one of the biggest agencies, that advertising agencies that we have in the country, they had different P&Ls, right? They had main advertising, they had PR, they had Ogilvy Health, they had a bunch of other proper P&Ls even within Ogilvy. They have gone through a global restructuring process where they've actually merged everything. So now when they go to a client, they say, we are Ogilvy and Mather, and as one team, we bring to you about 10 capabilities. So you don't need to go to anybody else. So globally, everybody is trying, all big agencies are trying to reinvent, otherwise they will die in this market.
Basically, you're talking about integrated communication firms.
Yeah.
So, as a student of mass communication, I would like to ask you, how has that changed for the capabilities that is required in a student who is going to the industry?
Yeah, that's a very, very important and very interesting question. As a student in communications, right, you will need to think integrated and you will need to develop new skills, which basically means, for instance, digital should be as easy for you as writing or thinking of a regular PR strategy or thinking of brand strategy, right? You need to know digital mediums. You need, and by digital, I don't really only mean social media. I mean, that's old school, right? It'll be good if you can look at analytics. How is big data being used? How can you use big data to understand big scale consumer behavior on the digital medium? What is the role of e-commerce? So digital is a big part of it, and it needs to be integrated into your everyday thinking. So when there's a brief from a client that comes in, for example, instead of thinking, what am I going to do? What's my insight culturally as one part? There are also briefs for regular clients that you can solve if you look at what is my consumer doing on digital, pick up a behavior, and then sort of latch on to that. So to give you an example, it's an old example, but I think McDonald's, right? McDonald's discovered that a lot of people, how we cross certain shops and we try to jump onto their Wi-Fi's because we always look for Wi-Fi's to jump onto. McDonald's discovered that a lot of people were jumping onto their Wi-Fi's when they were crossing the store. So what they decided to do was, they said, why don't we use this to leverage our promos? So every day when a person found the McDonald's Wi-Fi, the simple thing they did is they just renamed the Wi-Fi to today's offer. So then by definition, a person who's passing McDonald's. So it's a very simple, it's communication with a simple, intuitive, in a way digital behavior that they have captured, right? So you have to learn to think 360 integrated, not just a copy, a line, what am I going to say, what am I going to do? It should be every student needs to think that, because today we are all also, so to give you an example of Leo Burnett, today we are trying to hire people who we are calling hybrids, okay? We are looking at hiring people who have multiple talents, and by that I don't mean a person who does great art and writes great copy. No, a person who is creative but is also an engineer, so he understands technology, right? So I think it's super critical, and students need to look at their learning as a holistic 360 learning from get-go without splitting it up by different mediums.
So next I have to ask you, as an aspirant who wants to get into the ad industry,
Sure.
What exactly is it you or anyone of your fraternity look for in a fresher?
Interesting question. We look for, first and foremost, I personally look for three things, okay? I look for a lot of passion, okay? I look for a lot of enthusiasm, which means I want people to come to me with ideas. I don't want to necessarily go to you every time and say, this is the work you need to do, I want you to come to me and tell me the new big things that we need to do, because the older people don't have a lot of enthusiasm. Younger people by definition should. So a lot of passion for the work, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of hard work. People who are starting out, their starting point needs to be that I need to work very, very hard. and there is no substitute for hard work whatsoever. That by definition, you will end up being given a lot of work anyway because you're a fresher, but you need to keep in mind that this is something that will really get you a long way, right? And finally, discipline, because at the end of the day, at some point, the lack of discipline will catch up with you. So discipline, really working towards meeting deadlines, really working towards giving it your best to a piece of work. So these four, and you will learn technology. I mean, you will learn the craft. You will learn, how to think strategy, and all that can be taught to you. But these fundamental 3-4 pillars: passion, enthusiasm, hard work, and discipline. I have seen the best people, the best kids that I've worked with have that and have all four. So that ideally would be my advice to you. And additional advice, of course, would be start thinking integrated from the get-go. See one piece of, problem or a brief and see how can you tackle it from every possible direction, right?
So as someone who wants to get into the creative part of the advertising industry, I would like to ask you, is there any clashes between the strategy team and the creative team?
Oh, a lot, all the time. But that's a good thing. So, I as a strategist, I get very uncomfortable if I have given a brief and my creative team is sitting in the room and they are quiet. That is disaster waiting to happen, because either they are like, they can't understand it, or they are too bored, or they just don't care, or they are just bad creative. So it's very deadly to have silent creative, agreeable creative, because in the end of the day, if your creative is not passionate enough to question the brief or to ask you questions, right, about it, or to even challenge it, saying, but is there not an alternate way of doing this? Are you sure you're right? If a creative person is really good, then he will make the strategist uncomfortable. And the clash that results is actually a good clash to have, because the best work results out of it. So that's one type of clash. There's of course another type of clash which is egos, which is fine, which you will learn to deal with as you work with senior people, all of whom think that they are very good. But some sort of arguments and clashes between creative and strategy actually leads to very fantastic work, because it challenges both of them to bring in their A game, and then together great things happen.
So do you classify brands as sub-brands are more creative and some are not?
Yes. See, what happens is at the end of the day, I think all brands want to do great work. Okay. It's just that for some brands, to convince them to really be brave and creative is a tougher challenge. And for some brands, for the agency, it's an easier task. Usually in my experience, what ends up happening is the bigger the brand you are, okay, you have more to lose. So automatically you want to play it a little safe, right? If you are a smaller brand, if you're a newcomer, then typically you have less to lose, so you can be more challenging. You can sort of look at really questioning the norms and challenging status quo and so on and so forth, right? And so to give you, maybe I'll give you like an international example, right? We were discussing Burger King today. So Burger King has always been a lot more gutsy than McDonald's as a brand. Like the kind of work that they do is always been more out there, more edgy. They don't really think twice without taking a dig at McDonald's and so on and so forth. So some brands do it, and it's not always the case that big brands don't do big work, because what I was saying that ultimately when the work happens with a really big brand, that work gets noticed so fast because there is already so many loyalists and so many viewers who are waiting to see something from that brand. Like P&G is a classic example. Whenever P&G has done great work, which is culturally relevant and all, it has just flown off the charts. Like it has become globally relevant, it has shaped culture. So all the way we work with the client, the way we convince them, the trust exercise that we build with them, it's all worth it in the end.
So how do you analyze like any campaign that you're doing, whether it will have backlashes or not? How do you just judge that?
I mean, see, today because of social media, and if you have your, if you have, the pulse of the culture, you kind of have a sense. You know how that this will become offensive to a certain segment of society. For that you really need to know. You need to know the social sentiment. What are the conversations? If if people are discussing currently women empowerment, and they're saying how so many women are still downtrodden, and in that environment if you suddenly come up with oh my god, but there are men also who are downtrodden, it is true, but the percentage of it is so small that you will be met with a lot of skepticism, right? In an environment when people are saying, say, why are sanitary napkins so expensive, why or whatever, if suddenly an expensive brand goes and says I am expensive because I bring great quality, then you're going to face backlash. So then as a big brand which is probably a little more expensive, you have to start talking other things. So you have to gauge that. Of course, what's interesting in the digital world is that if you do put up a lot of developed communication markets do trial and error on digital. So they prepare a response to every response that they might get from the audience. So they may tweak their ad like that. They may set up a response set on Twitter in terms of if people ask certain questions. So disaster management, and especially in PR, becomes a big deal. So a lot of times people prepare the repercussion to a piece of communication. Sometimes you may not be able to foresee it. Today in India, at least, more often than not, people in strategy and in marketing who know the pulse of the consumer know what they should really stay away from, because if you think something is wrong, there probably is. And not every brand, you don't want to every time be that brand which is really poking at the audience and saying something edgy. Like Fast Track way back when did move on, right? They were absolutely at the edge of culture, right? And that time it was still okay. Right? Today that has become very mainstream. Today you might pick something else and then you have to really see, okay, should I talk about homosexuality? Do I do this? A lot of clients are going to be very scared. Some might end up doing it, but then you be prepared about the backlash you're going to get. So yeah.
So finally you are associated with the media industry for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
And now you are in a responsible position in a very reputed firm. If you could share the story of how it all began.
I always wanted to work in communications and marketing. I started off in marketing. It was a very tragic story because I always wanted to join. Leo Burnett was my first company of choice. Also because my then boyfriend, now husband, started off, he was my senior in MICA, and he started off working with Leo Burnett. And I got the information through him in terms of what an amazing agency, the work and stuff. But we were in 2009 when I was in my second year, and that was a recession year. So that's the year when a lot of advertising agencies sort of froze hiring. And the next option were the big marketing agencies for, the account planning strategy majors. So I started off in VIP, and thank God that I did that, because that gave me a handle on marketing and product and sales and communication like nothing else in advertising would have given me in my initial years. So I had that grounding, but then I moved on to advertising as soon as I could post, like three and a half years. And then that's been the journey. I mean, I was in Bates where the Schneider work happened. I worked on Tang, and then I moved to Leo Burnett. Leo Burnett for me has been, I think, the best part of my career so far, because it was a very conscious choice. My ultimate ambition is to move as a regional strategist. So basically move outside the country, maybe Southeast Asia, maybe a Singapore and stuff like that, maybe Europe at some point. So I wanted to increase my global exposure when it comes to brands and the communication they do. And when Leo Burnett came to me with Procter & Gamble, I joined on Whisper, and I was a part of the Whisper regional team, which means that we worked with the Whisper India, Middle East market, right? And we also constantly worked with the Always, Whisper is always globally. So we always also worked with the Always Global team, which was based out of Chicago. So that was Whisper. Tide and Ariel similarly, right? Very global brands, big brands. I think across these brands, I have, like Burnett has ensured I have the most number of stamps on my passport in terms of Europe travel and USA travel, like the amount I would have never done probably personally. So it's been, I've met a lot of people, I've been, exposed to a lot of global cultures, global communication, all thanks to Leo Burnett. Leo took me to Cannes Lions in 2015. We were a bunch of 8-10 people, and we went there just to see the work and to really absorb. And also we had a bunch of work that was being entered. So that's been the Procter & Gamble journey. It's a great client. They're very big. They bring big, beautiful market leader challenges. In some places they are new entrants and stuff like that. So it's a good brand. It's a lot of, again, global exposure. It's been a great stepping stone into my future plans for sure. And it's the good thing about Burnett, to tell you a little bit about Leo also, is that we have a very it's almost like a family. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of energy, but there's also a great spirit of camaraderie. Like, there are no closed doors. Anyone, you could be any department, any level, you can walk to my CEO and tell him I have an idea. So that is the culture, that we try to always encourage among everyone, that you can be any person, an idea can come from anywhere, right? So it's always open, we're excited, bunch of young people. It's a young agency, it's super fun. And the attempt is, to one of your earlier questions, the attempt is to do integrated big work. So that's been the journey, and let's see, onwards and upwards. Let's see where life takes me.
Could you share with us any recent campaign that you have been working on, like from the idea to the implementation?
Yeah, can. In fact, I can just maybe take you guys through the sit in proper work and a couple of other whisper pieces of work that we did. So it actually stems from even urban empowered girls feeling this restriction ever since they are kids. So ever since a girl is even a toddler, and I've seen this in airports, I've seen little 2-3-year-old girl sitting on a chair, and the mother actually trying to cross her legs and bring her dress down to her knee and stuff like that. And it shapes up that conditioning of those young girls, and as they grow older they feel like they always need to be at attention, always checking, is it okay, can somebody see? And we want to tell them that the world will always tell you, do this properly, do this like this, and always put rules on you, right? But do you really want to think about all those things when as a woman you are doing so much more? There's so much more that you would rather concentrate on and do. So Sit in Proper as a concept was based on that, which was pretty much telling the girls that here is your ammunition in a product that allows you to sit comfortably, and also in a point of view of a brand that is telling you, it's okay. Whatever makes you comfortable, just go ahead and do that. So these are the two, I think, latest pieces of work which I want to talk to you guys about.
Well, any discussion about an industry that survives on utmost creativity and clever strategies, or what we call the glamour world of advertising, can never really tire us out. But Sohini ma'am has got her brand's image to retain and their products to sell. We are very grateful for your insights, and thank you so much for giving us your time. Stay tuned for more of exciting and thought-provoking interviews only on Xavier University Bhubaneswar Presents Legend, powered by Xavier School of Communications. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.